Welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something almost everyone faces, right? That big journey of changing jobs. So whether you're just thinking about a career shift, maybe you're deep in the job search right now, or even if you're just curious about how things work these days professionally, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. We've been digging into this really invaluable guide on career transitions. And what I think makes it stand out is how it mixes, practical advice with a story, a personal journey that makes it all very relatable. So our mission today: pull out the most important nuggets, the stuff you really need to know. Hopefully you'll walk away feeling well-informed, maybe prepared, maybe even a bit inspired. Yeah, this isn't just a simple checklist that looks at the whole thing, the whole arc, From that first feeling of, maybe it's time, all the way to actually starting and thriving somewhere new. Okay, let's unpack this. There's honestly so much more to learn about making a professional leap than just, like, updating your CV. So first things first, why do people even decide to change jobs?
I mean, it's super common, we know that. But what's really driving it? Our guide seemed to have some interesting takes on this.
It really does. And what's fascinating is how it talks about the underlying feelings. It highlights things like feeling stuck, Like there's just no room for growth. Or maybe you're just doing the same things over and over.
Monotony.
Exactly. And that often sparks this desire for a new challenge, a chance to maybe develop new skills. People start looking for a more dynamic environment. And the guide really frames it as often being a strategic career move, not just running away from something.
Ah, that's a key distinction.
Yeah, it emphasizes that recognizing that feeling, that stuckness, is sort of the crucial first step. It's about reclaiming some agency over your career path.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's not just what you're leaving behind, but what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of you listening can probably relate to that feeling, hitting a plateau, or just needing something more stimulating. Okay, so let's say you've made that big decision. You're moving on. The next thought is often, okay, now what? Where do I start? This is where the practical stuff comes in, right? What does the guide say about laying the groundwork?
Right. So the guide gets very specific here. It mentions the crucial prep actions. And it's more than just saying, update your CV or your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
It stresses tailoring them, thinking about those applicant tracking systems, the ATS bots.
Ah, the infamous bots.
Yeah. And making sure you're showcasing your impact, like with actual numbers or results, not just a list of duties. And the guide actually uses an example, Sarah, I think. She found that proactively updating her LinkedIn didn't just help her apply, it helped recruiters find her.
Oh, interesting. So it's about visibility, too.
Exactly. And then there's networking, but not just cold emailing people. It's more about tapping into your genuine professional connections. Maybe an old colleague who can refer you. Sometimes that's the way in.
That's such a good point. Your online profile is like your digital storefront. And the guide seems to really stress being proactive about it. Okay, profiles are polished.
Yeah.
Then comes the thought of actually interviewing for a job, especially if it's been a while. That can be pretty nerve-wracking.
Oh, definitely. And the guide's advice is super practical on this. It's basically practice. Practice those common questions. Have your examples ready, drawn from your actual experience. It's about building confidence through that preparation.
Makes sense. Be ready to tell your story. All right, so let's fast forward. You've done the prep, you aced the interviews, you've got an offer. Fantastic. Now, how do you leave your current job without, making things awkward or burning bridges? What's the advice on a graceful exit?
Yeah, this part's really important, actually. The guide lays out some key steps for a professional departure. First, schedule a meeting with your manager. Don't just drop an email.
Right, face-to-face if possible.
Ideally. Then give proper notice, usually 2 weeks, but maybe more, depending on your role, and provide a formal written resignation letter. Keep it professional. The guide also stresses being respectful when you talk about why you're leaving. Focus on the future, your growth, and definitely thank your employer for the opportunities you had there.
Good advice.
The main thing really is don't burn bridges. You want to leave on good terms. You never know when your paths might cross again.
So true. Future references, network connections, it all matters.
Okay, now for what many see as the main event, the interview itself. You've prepared, but what happens in the room? The guide must have tips for navigating that conversation.
It sure does. It covers the usual questions, of course, like tell me about yourself, why do you want to work here?
The classics.
And describe a challenge you overcame. But it also emphasizes the strategy behind your answers. For instance, that tricky one, why did you leave your last job?
Yeah, how do you answer that well?
The advice is to be honest, but positive. Focus on your desire for growth or seeking new challenges rather than, complaining about your old boss. Always pivot back to your strengths. Use specific example stories, really, of what you've achieved. And crucially, show how you can add value to their specific team and company.
So it's not just about you, it's about what you bring to them. Exactly. The interview isn't just reciting your CV, it's strategically presenting your value. Like Sarah in the guide, she practiced tailoring her "tell me about yourself" story for each specific role. That made a huge difference.
That makes sense. Tailoring is key. Okay, so you've navigated the interview successfully, landed the job, made a smooth exit. Now what? The new beginning. Let's talk about starting the new role. The excitement, but also probably some adjustments, right?
Totally.
What does the guide say about those first few months?
Yeah, the guide paints a pretty realistic picture. It often starts with the positives, maybe loving the new team, the company culture. It gives examples like stepping into a more senior position, say a marketing lead role. That's exciting, more strategy, leading a team.
Sure, a step up.
But then it gets real about the adjustments, too. The biggest ones are often learning new systems.
Oh, yeah. New software, new processes.
Totally. Could be a CRM, a project tool, even just how they communicate internally. And then there's understanding the company's values and their whole different way of working. That can be a subtle shift.
Culture shock, almost.
A little bit sometimes, but the guide highlights things that really help, like good structured onboarding programs or being assigned a mentor. That's huge.
Definitely.
And having regular, maybe weekly check-ins with your manager. These things make the transition so much smoother. Sarah, the example again, she mentioned needing to quickly learn not just the software, but the team's language, the unspoken rules.
Yeah, those unwritten rules. So beyond the practical stuff, the new software and meetings, a job change is a big emotional deal too, isn't it? It's not just logistics. What does the guide say about that inner experience, the mindset shifts?
Oh, absolutely. It dives right into that complex mix of feelings, feeling nervous, but also really excited, maybe sad to leave your old colleagues, your comfort zone, but also feeling ready to grow. It talks about that initial feeling of starting over, which can be a bit disorienting, but also how you gain confidence day by day as you settle in.
It's like being the new kid at school again, but professionally.
Kind of. Sarah, in the guide, apparently described it as a roller coaster. Feeling liberated one minute, maybe a bit of imposter syndrome the next.
Totally relatable.
But the key takeaway is the confidence you gain from navigating it all. And it shares this really powerful idea. The goal is to stay somewhere long enough to learn, but not so long that you stop growing.
Ooh, I like that. Not so long that you stop growing.
Yeah, it's presented not just as a nice thought, but almost like a strategic principle for your career. Keep evolving.
That's a really strong point about knowing when growth means moving on. Which brings up a question. How do you make sure you are growing in the right way? How do you navigate those internal feelings and make sure the move aligns with your actual goals?
Well, the guide does look ahead. It gives examples of the kinds of goals that might come after a transition, things like wanting to lead bigger campaigns or maybe improve your management skills, or even shifting from being mentored to becoming a mentor for others.
Right, paying it forward.
Exactly. And for anyone listening who's thinking about making a switch, the guide offers some really solid advice. First, reflect seriously on what you really want. Go deeper than just salary or title. Don't just change because you're bored. Make sure you know your goals.
Clarity is key.
Definitely. Then prepare well. We talked about that. And talk to mentors, get different perspectives. And maybe the most important thing, believe in your value throughout the whole process.
That really is crucial, isn't it?
It is
Believing in
critical.
your own worth. And the guide seems to remind us that sometimes, honestly, the hardest bit is just taking that first step, not letting fear paralyze you.
Precisely. Don't let fear hold you back.
Well, that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into navigating career transitions today. We've covered a lot: the why, the how, the leaving, the interviewing, the starting, and even the emotional journey, all drawn from the great insights and the story woven through our source material.
Yeah, it's quite a journey. And maybe, as a final thought for everyone listening, as you think about your own path, consider not just where you want to end up, but maybe what you need to become to get there. Like what new skill or maybe what new mindset is calling you towards that next stage of your own growth.
That's a powerful question to ponder. So take a moment, reflect on your own journey. What really stood out to you from our chat today as you think about your career? And maybe, just maybe, what's that next step you've been a little hesitant to take?